I want to introduce you to my friend Genesis. Genesis and I met actually when she was pregnant about 3 years ago with her twins. She has an incredible story of IVF and just walking and navigating some of the guilt and the shame that we bring and put upon ourselves when we are walking out this journey. And so we're just going to share a little bit about her testimony and her story and how God has seen her through all of these trials. Today's episode is brought to you by Sugaring LA in McKinney, your go-to spot for beauty that makes you feel confident and cared for. Whether you're looking for expert sugaring, skincare, or just a little self-care moments, they've got you covered. Treat yourself today. You deserve it. Check out Sugaring LA in McKinney or click on the show notes below for deals, promos, and discounts. Thank you, Sugaring LA, for sponsoring this podcast. Oh my gosh, you're my first guest.
That's exciting. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
I'm so excited.
You were actually our first guest when we had our infertility and pregnancy loss group. And I wanted to, part of what we do in our group is we always share our story. And I just wanted somebody else to come in and kind of share their story with the girls. And you were like, I'm up for it. Sign me up. Where do I need to be? How do I get there? And you just came, and it was beautiful to just have an external person come in and share. And so I've been praying for this podcast for over 5 years, and it's now finally here, and you get to be my first official guest.
Yes.
So that's kind of like symbolic to what we did before. So, so I'm just really honored to have you here. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And I would just love for you to kind of go into your story. Start where you want. We'll just kind of, this is fun and no pressure.
Yeah.
If we need to cut things out because we've gone too far, because that's me, no filter, we can. But at this point, we're just here to share your story and to connect with our audience and offer faith, hope, love, whatever comes to you that you want to share.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. Walking through infertility was definitely one of the hardest things that I've ever faced in my life. And it kind of felt like it just got harder, you know, in its own way with a high-risk pregnancy and then the NICU. And I think something that people don't talk about when they walk through infertility is just how it really affects every part of your life, mentally, financially, physically, spiritually. And we kind of always knew that we would have a little bit of a hard time getting pregnant because of my husband's like experience, or not experience, but like his issues that he's had in the past. And I have endometriosis. So just putting 2 and 2 together, we knew it would be hard. But my firstborn, so we're a blended family, he was just a spontaneous pregnancy. So it was really hard to walk in a season of waiting after getting pregnant and not wanting to be pregnant. So we were about 8 months in for trying, and it just was not happening for us. And then, you know, the rule of thumb is you have to be trying for a year before a fertility doctor will see you. But because of our, you know, history, we got in, ran all the tests, and I was 26, and it just turns out that my body was not cooperating anymore. And ironically, my husband's numbers came back fine, like within range. Enough is what the doctor said. But it was me that with the endo, and then I actually had a low ovarian reserve, which again, I'm 26 years old, and my body just thought we were like 50. So it just, you know, it wasn't happening. And our only option, unfortunately, was to go straight to IVF. So I think it was, you know, sometimes I struggle with a lot of guilt where I'm like, did I even walk through infertility? Because I didn't wait 2, 3, 4 years like a lot of other women. But I think I still waited, and every single month I still hurt, you know? So we actually saw a couple doctors because I wanted multiple opinions and obviously to see different cost. And they all said the same thing. Like, we could try an IUI, but because of my incompetent uterus, it's such a beautiful word that they use.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Put that on your resume. Incompetent uterus.
Absolutely. Okay. It was our only option. So we honestly went straight into it. I really wish that I was who I am today in my relationship with the Lord back then, because I feel like I would have placed my faith in Jesus more than in a doctor. And also I try to control the situation because I so desperately wanted something right. So we went straight into IVF, and $70,000 later,
Wow.
Lord knows where we got that from. We got pregnant. So our first pregnancy did end up in a miscarriage. So
Your first IVF
yes,
transfer.
our first IVF transfer.
And was that a fresh egg? Is that how? No.
No. So we, again, like, I always say, like, the Lord is crazy, right? But he isn't. He's intentional. We walked out. So we go, sorry, I'm like all over the place.
Okay.
We go in, you're doing your stems, you go in for your egg retrieval. And we walked out of there with 18 good eggs,
Wow.
which our IVF doctor walked in and was like, Genesis, I don't know what you did, but this was great. And I'm like,
yay, I'm 26.
I'm so out of it, right? So we walk out with 18 eggs, and I do remember her looking at my husband and was like, saying, like, you did your job.
To you?
To him.
Your husband?
Yeah.
What was his job? To provide a sample.
Provide a sample.
Oh, right. So, all right. So you're there, and she said, you've already done your job. And his job is basically to provide a sample.
Yes.
That's it.
But it made me feel so incompetent. It made me feel like I didn't do my job.
Well, your job just hadn't started yet.
Yeah.
Or your part. But 18 eggs is amazing.
It was amazing. 12 fertilized.
Okay.
And then, 9 made it to blast.
Okay. Which means frozen.
Yes. So
Okay.
they were good. However, my husband is from Jewish descent, so they highly recommended him that we got our embryos PGT tested, because there's like this chromosomal issue.
PGT is?
I don't know what it stands for, but essentially they check the chromosomes to make sure that the babies won't have any, like, they can test diseases, they can test, like, the genetics, they can do gender.
Okay.
And because of his ethnicity, they said that sometimes babies come back with a specific gene disorder if they're Ashkenazi Jews. And because his family is, our babies might carry that.
Okay.
Which in the infertility world means that they're not viable.
Okay.
So they toss them.
Oh. Do you have a choice?
No.
Okay, that they just make that declaration. This isn't going to work. So we're gonna. Okay, so 18 eggs. Then what was the next thing? They
12 fertilized.
9 went to blast.
Yes.
Okay,
So
18,
then,
12, 9.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then those got sent out to get tested. Unfortunately, one of them, who was a little girl, came back with a miscarriage factor and then Down syndrome. So they tossed her, which again, it's like, this is the stuff no one talks about in IVF, because from what I believe and what I believe scripture says, it's like, it was a life, you know? So that was hard to mourn and process that. But then, so we got 8 back, did a transfer, that failed. And then we transferred 2. And my thought was, okay, that gives us a better chance, right? If we do 2, maybe 1 will hang out. And they're both here.
Okay, so 9, transferred 1 miscarriage. How long in between those 2? Did you try again? Because that's the question. People are like, do I try immediately after? Is my body ready? And I know it's different for everyone. So consult your doctor. We are not doctors. We're just talking through Genesis process. So this is not medical advice, but there's 2 sides of the coin. One is like, hey, your body's primed and ready. Do your transfer right away. The other one is like, let your body kind of reset and transfer. So what was your timeline?
So my first transfer was in June. And then my next transfer was mid-August. So I did not wait.
So you waited 1 cycle?
Yes.
So you had 1 period in July. Mm-hmm. And that would be considered a miscarriage?
No, my miscarriage was end of June, I guess beginning of July, because I was 4 weeks along.
Okay. With that first transfer?
Yes.
So, okay, so let me ask you this. Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
We believe that embryos are life. Mm-hmm. So that is a life inside of you, because some people think that it's not until the baby is inside the uterus can it take form. Mm-hmm. So that would be considered a miscarriage because you carried that embryo for 4 weeks.
Yes.
Typically, you would carry for 2 if it didn't work.
The
Like,
2-week wait. Mm-hmm.
So it happened, and then you waited 2 weeks, or you waited 4?
Well, I waited 2 weeks, and then you go in for your beta, and you're not supposed to do this. Don't take a pregnancy test after a transfer. Gosh. But I did. Uh-huh. And I got very faint positives. Mm-hmm. But then when I went in for my beta, my number was under 5.
Right.
So that's when they said this won't be a viable pregnancy.
Okay. So beta's HGC, and that's anything above 5 can be considered a pregnancy because you're producing that hormone.
Yes.
And you start producing progesterone. Were you on medication to carry that pregnancy?
Yes, okay. I was doing, you have to do your progesterone injections. Okay. I forget what else, but I was doing my progesterone too. And then you just kind of stop.
And they just say, stop taking all the meds. Mm-hmm. You're done. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we have this miscarriage, first ever miscarriage through IVF transfer, waited a month, went through your full cycle. And then in August, we are now in August.
Yes. We go in, you're supposed to call, hey, started my cycle. You go in for your blood work, your test, your sonograms, and then they give you the go ahead. Your uterus has to be, what is it?
Thickened?
Yeah, thickened.
Thickness. Your uterus.
Yeah, so she said, we're good. Let's go ahead and transfer it. Mm-hmm. And then with my first pregnancy, I went eclamptic. So she was very against transferring too. And this is also another question that I did receive a lot. Did the embryo split? How did you end up pregnant with twins? My doctor won't let me transfer too. But I was very adamant from the very beginning. I said, if this doesn't work, this is what we're doing.
Why?
Because I tried controlling the situation. Mm. Yeah.
And your thought process was because one didn't transfer, so if I can transfer 2, I have a better shot? Because of the number of eggs that you had in reserve?
To me, it was a numbers game. If I transfer 2, maybe 1 will stay.
Okay.
And I think I was just trying to control the situation, and I feel like my doctor saw that, and I don't know why she didn't tell me, let's try 1 again, but I was just very adamant. And again, I just wish I can go back and say pause and pray about what my next step should have been. So
were you and your husband in alignment at that time, or was there because we talk about the financial everything, but it also affects our marriage because their thought process and our thought process can be so different, or even their understanding of what's happening. And then you're on these medications that are making you actually borderline crazy.
Yeah.
And so you're pumped with all this stuff, and then you're also trying to make decisions with a limited amount of knowledge. So what was that like for your marriage?
It was hard. Yeah. And I'll be honest, we're still battling the damage that was done. My husband was also in paramedic school while we were walking through IVF. Don't recommend. That was the worst year of my life. It was incredibly difficult. His job was on the line if he didn't pass. So back to your original question, were we in alignment? I think he just wanted me to be okay because he saw how low I was. Mm. And he has told me if I didn't say yes, I don't know if you would be alive because the depression just took over. Mm. Yeah, it was really hard. Mm. So I don't think I allowed him to lead, at all. And we're battling that on this end. And I think that's why I'm so vocal about our journey, because I kind of want to save people from what I went through and what we're going through now. And praise God, right, for redemption. And we're working on our marriage and working on recovering. And we love our kids. And he is a wonderful father and loves and adores our twins. But it's hard. It is hard because we can look at our children and look at the things that they went through. And in your mind, you tell yourself, if I wouldn't have transferred 2, they wouldn't have suffered like they did when they were born. Mm. So it's just a constant, we're still working through all the trauma.
Yeah. So share with our audience what you talk about with the twins going through trauma. So you do this transfer, you transfer 2 eggs, and they take.
Yes. And then my very first beta was 400. And I was like, oh my gosh, it worked.
Yeah.
This is going to be okay. And, you're holding your breath for 7 weeks regardless, right? Because that's just, for some reason, the Number Society has told us that after this mark, you're safe, which we know it's not true. But we go in, I go and do my betas, and they're tripling. And then I even had a moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, what if they split? Am I pregnant with 3? Am I pregnant with 4?
Oh, wow. Yes.
And another thing to consider when you do take your embryos to get PGTA tested, they're manipulating a cell, so it increases the chance of that embryo splitting.
So they're manipulating it by testing it?
Yes, they essentially just go in and they suck a little part of the embryo out, like a cell or 2, and then that's what they send off.
A sale?
Sorry, I don't know what that was.
That was so country of you. Your sale. They put her out a sale. I hope you guys are watching this, because that did not sound like it should come out of her.
Sometimes it just comes out. That's a truck driver, so.
Okay, I love it. Okay, so they pull out the sale, and then so that because it's been modified to some level,
yeah,
when it does get transferred, it has the potential of splitting.
Yeah, and which is, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert on any of this, but there are those cases where the embryo splits in utero, which is insane. But yeah, so we go into our sonogram, and I remember, you're laying there, Wanda's hanging out with you, and I'm like looking at my husband. He's just like just dead staring at the screen, holding my hand. And I'm sobbing, because that's all I do all the time is cry.
Is it the meds or is it you?
It's me.
Okay, got it.
I've always been like this.
So, okay, you're good. Okay.
Got my tissues.
All right, so you're sobbing. He's holding your hand. You're waiting for the ultrasound.
The ultrasound's going in, and it's the doctor, not an ultrasound tech. Like, it's the doctor in there with us doing it. And she, you're looking up at the screen, you see 2 sacs, and then all of a sudden you just see 2 little dots. And she looks at me, she goes, okay, they're here. They're hanging out. Everything looks good. And I was like, okay. I remember walking out of there, holding the little sonogram photo, taking a picture to send to my parents. And I'm like, I'm pregnant. Like, I'm pregnant. Oh, and it's twins. My mom is freaking out. My sister and I are very close. That morning of my transfer, she sent me a photo of her breakfast. She's making eggs, and she's like, I just broke 1 egg, and it had double yolk. She's like, it's going to be twins. And I was like, we'll see.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
There we go.
So yeah, twins.
It's amazing. So you talked about there's a grief inside of you because of, and you almost feel responsible the way you worded it, that you, because of what you chose to do, which you admitted to our audience, that this was like outside of faith. Like you wanted this, you chose this, and because of your choices, you feel responsible for what happened at labor and delivery for those twins. Is that true?
Yeah. I carry a lot of guilt and a lot of shame and a lot of responsibility, because I almost lost them, and what if I only transferred 1 and my body could actually go to term with a pregnancy? I went into labor at 20 weeks in California, and my doctor was, sorry, I'm going to also move backwards. Sorry. I'm in California, and I go into labor, and my doctor told me, she's like, do not go. Like, your body cannot handle this. But we went anyway, and I got pneumonia, and we're at St. Jude's in Southern California, and my husband's so upset. And I couldn't feel the walker. I didn't feel him.
Your son.
Yeah, my
Not
son.
the walker. They're going to think you're like carrying around a walker.
Yeah, no. My son is typically up here because he's twin B, and then my daughter was down here. She's twin A. And I just felt movement down here, but I couldn't feel him anymore. And, it's so strange. When you're pregnant with twins, you can start telling who's who. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. It's incredible. So I
couldn't tell the difference between a kid and a fart. So I'm impressed that you can do that. That's like a total connection with your body.
When there's like a foot in your lung the whole time, and then another foot on your bladder, and you're like, there's no way that kid is that big.
Yeah, stretched that far.
So I go into labor, and it was just insane. I'm calling my OB and I'm like, what do I do? Like, how do I get home? Is the plane ride home gonna do something? And as soon as I got back home, that's when she's like, your cervix is opening. Like you're having contractions. We're gonna admit you. And I was from 20 weeks to 30 weeks. I was in and out of the hospital. And the final time that she admitted me, I was at my MFMs. Like my mucus plug was gone.
MFMs.
Oh, sorry. The maternal fetal medicine doctor.
Got it.
I go in there, get my scan. He's like, your mucus plug is gone. I can't do cerclage. Like you're too far along.
Cerclage.
They
Check.
sew you
Scrape.
up.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So the baby doesn't come out.
Okay.
But I was too far along.
So you were starting labor at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
My water bag was bulging. And she's like, you can't.
How many weeks?
When it happened 3 times. The first time I went into active labor, I was 20 weeks.
And they paused it. Medication.
No, I didn't have to go into on meds at that point. She put me on strict bed rest. So then every 2 weeks, I would have to go into the MFM. And then at 24 weeks, so literally 4 weeks span, I got admitted again. And I did a magnesium drip, which that's a medication to stop your contractions. That was the second time I've ever been on magnesium. I was on magnesium with my first. It is torture what that does to your body. Like you're on fire.
Oh.
I remember the NICU team came in to prepare me for what was about to happen if they couldn't stop my labor. My mom's on the couch, and my husband's sitting in the corner. He's like, I need to talk to a doctor. My husband is very logical, so needed someone to talk to him from a medical place and not from an emotional place. Right. And my OB was so good at that. She would look at me and say, Genesis, I'm really sorry. This is what's happening. This is what we have to do. And she'd look at Shane. This is what's happening. This is what she's going to do. This is what's next. And like throw out all the medical terms. And he understood it. And she
spoke the language each of you needed in that moment.
Yes.
And that's critical.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And I remember...
And this is your OBGYN, not your infertility doctor.
No. So we're... sorry.
So you've moved on from that.
You know, at
OB.
8 weeks, you graduate from your infertility doctor to your regular OB.
Okay.
And yeah, so we're at the hospital and I'm on this magnesium drip. I remember looking at my husband and saying like, my eyeballs are on fire. They're going to come out. And he just didn't understand what I was saying. My mom told me, she's like, you were speaking gibberish. Like no one understood you. But I remember looking at the NICU nurse and asking her like, am I going to be able to hold them if they're born? And she looks at me and she looks at Shane. And like, I just knew in that moment, like, this wasn't okay. And she's like, our main concern right now is to make sure that they're breathing if they're born. And man, the fear that I felt, but also the shame because I knew it was my fault. You know?
No, I don't. I don't understand that.
It just felt like it was my fault because I took so much control of our fertility journey and I made her transfer too. And I felt like I asked for this in the strangest way. And I know that's not true.
Okay.
I know that's a lie that I made myself believe to cope or to understand or to process. I don't even know. Like, I know that's the enemy.
Right.
Making me feel bad. And making me, what does he do? He comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy.
Right.
And he was doing that, and I was letting him do that.
In that moment, or even now? Or both?
Both.
Okay, because I feel like you hold on to that responsibility, and I want to work with you through that. I want to talk through that because I'm sure you're not the only one. You're not the first. You're not the last. But that's a heavy burden for you to walk through and to hold on and to feel that responsibility. Does your husband feel that? Do the doctors feel that? Or just you?
I think just me. You know, I know it's just me because our OB, that was at 24 weeks. Praise God that they were able to stop my labor. But she was like, this isn't your fault. There's nothing you could have done. There's nothing you did.
And you were like, liar, I don't believe you.
I was like, you're a liar because this is my body. Like,
So
I'm
your body...
in control of this. I think that's the core message of a lot, is that I make myself believe that I was in so much control.
I think control is something we all want.
Yeah.
Understanding, control, responsibility, purpose. Like, we want to, like, we want the perfect bumper sticker to come out of the situation and be like, this is my thing.
Yeah.
But I know that there's other women out there that hold that same responsibility that you're holding. And, I think I think there's a logical perspective of you that has understanding of responsibility, or if it's your fault, or the control piece. And then there's that emotional. And those two, like, basically coexist to the place that you couldn't take the pepper out of the salt. They're just so blended in your mind that you're like, 1 minute you have a logical thought like, no. And then you come back to that. Yeah, it's my fault. I did this. I caused this. Any delay, you have doctor's appointments, anything that the doctors say, anything that happens to your kids, you're going to feel responsible for the rest of your life.
Hopefully not.
Yes. Amen. Yes and amen. There is freedom and healing through that. But, okay, so we're 24 weeks, potentially can't hold the baby. That's the first time you go in. Then we go back in 2 more times.
Yeah, well, I was there. You're in the labor and delivery unit, all hooked up. Contractions have stopped. There's no point of me staying there anymore. And I just wanted to go home. Because with my first, I was also hospitalized for almost 2 months.
Was that your fault too?
No,
okay.
Not anymore. It only took me 8 years to work through that one. And hopefully that's not the case anymore. No, because of the preeclampsia with him, and my blood pressure was through the roof. And she's like, you're not leaving my site. So I just really wanted to go home. Like, my son is at the house. My husband is working. My mom, praise like God for her. She moved in with us. The first moment I was like, I'm on bed rest. She's like, okay. My dad has told her, pack your bags. You're moving in. I feel very bad for my husband having to.
Mother-in-law.
Yeah. And the firefighter schedule, it's insane, like he was like, I'm not leaving you for 2 to 3 days at a time. And you can't even walk to the bathroom by yourself. So she moved in, and we're in the hospital, and I'm worried about my son, my oldest. He needs his mom, and I was like, please let me go home. Please. Like, I promise I'll lay down every day. I won't go anywhere. And she did. And she even told me, she's like, I'm never going to listen to you ever again, because just come right back, and knocked on the labor and delivery door. And they're like, you're not leaving this time. But that was at 24 weeks. So I managed to not be in progressive labor for an additional almost 6 weeks, because I ended up just having the twins at 30. I remember my appointment was on a Tuesday, and I go in there. She's doing her checkups, and she's like, how have you been feeling? I'm like, I honestly just feel like I have to kind of go to the bathroom all the time. And her eyes, and apparently that's not something you're supposed to say. So she looked at my husband, and she's like, as soon as you get back in the car, you drive straight to Baylor. And I was like, no, I have to pack. Like, nothing's ready. My son, it's all these things, right? Because I was out of control. So I go home, I get my bag, we go to Baylor. I honestly can't even see a photo of that hospital without losing it. And we get there, and she's like, Genesis, 4 weeks. Just give me 4 weeks. Let's get the twins to get to 34 weeks.
4 weeks in the hospital on bed rest. You're not leaving.
Yeah.
Got it.
She's like, that's the goal. She's like, we're not making it to 37, because that was always the original goal. And she's like, if we make
Which is standard for twins?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would have automatically gotten my C-section at 37 weeks,
Which was planned and kind of
April 26th was my due date.
Okay.
So yeah, we're in there, and it's Tuesday night. My husband has shift the next morning. So we're finally settled into the hospital. We're in there, we're getting comfortable. And I remember holding a hot tamale Valentine's Day gift that my son gave me. And he goes, "Here, mommy, I'm not gonna be able to see you, so take this with you." Mm-hmm. So I have it. It's the night before. I take a picture, send it to my mom, and I'm like, "Show Bentley, let him know I love him." I'm going to bed. My husband leaves 5 a.m. because he has to be at the station, and I'm hooked up, and my contractions are just spiking up. So it's already the next morning. They're coming in for their checks. She's like moving, the little, what are they called? The Dopplers, because the twins are going insane. So I'm by myself right now at this point because Shane's already on shift. And the nurse comes in and she's pumping. She has like the inserts in. I'm like, what's that sound? Like, I just feel like I'm going crazy at this point, right? Yeah. And she's just talking to me. They do that. They talk to you to keep you calm, right? Even though they're looking at the monitors and they know something's not okay. So she's like, "I'm just going to call Dr. Vaughn really quick." I was like, "Oh, is everything okay?" She's like, "Yeah, she just hasn't seen you since you've been admitted. She's going to be doing her rounds." I think everyone just knew to keep Genesis calm. Yeah. Dr. Vaughn comes in. She's like, "Hey, I have to do a cervical check." It's like 9 a.m., Yeah. And she's
Can I
like,
get some oatmeal first, lady?
Right? She looks at me. She's doing her check. She comes up. She's like, "Grace just shook my hand."
Oh, Grace is your daughter.
Yes.
Inside of your uterus.
Yeah.
And she shook the doctor's hand.
Yeah. And she goes, "We're going to have the babies today." Mm. That was February 28th, 2024. And that was a leap year.
Oh, so
I very easily could have had February 29th babies. And I look at her. I'm not worried about my husband not being there. I'm not worried about anything. I look at her and I'm like, "Dr. Vaughn, my lashes aren't done." And I'm just crying. I just really wanted to look pretty in labor.
Priorities. Okay.
And she's like, "Babe, you need to call Shane and you need to call your mom." Mm. So I call Shane, poor guy. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm so sorry because I know you just left to work, but we're having the babies and this time it's for real." Mm. And his captain goes like, "Shane, really this time?" Or goes, "Youngblood. Like, seriously, for real, for real."
Name.
Yes.
Youngblood.
Like, seriously this time? And Shane told me that his captain was like, "I'm just white as a ghost." And I was like, "Can you bring the engine so no one stops you? Like, can you get a VIP drop off?"
She's like, "As soon as possible, take the engine."
Yeah.
Love it.
And he gets up there and he doesn't even have time to change out of his uniform. Here's the scrubs. The NICU team is already preparing the OR because obviously they're all on the same page. Emergency C-section, NICU team, 4-2 has to be there. He comes in and I'm just looking at him and I just lose it. Mm. But I got my lashes done.
Before?
I did my lashes. I did them myself.
Oh, how funny.
So my lashes are good.
Okay, we're ready to have this baby. My eyelashes are on.
Yeah, my mom does not drive fast. And somehow that lady got there in 10 seconds.
Oh, I love
She braids my hair, so it's
Oh.
out of my face. My lashes are good.
Oh, my God.
My husband's there. They come in and they're like, "Okay, let's go." And, you get the shivers right before labor or something. I don't know. I couldn't stop shaking. That OR was so warm. And normally you think ORs are like freezing. And I remember asking them why it was so hot. And they said, "Because your babies aren't ready. And it needs to be warm when they come out." So we're in there. You go in by yourself because you have to get the epidural. And I'm laying like this, which just feels so restricting already. So the nurses are all in there. Dr. Vaughn already is in there prepping. They bring Shane back. And I just, it was so fast. It probably was like 5-10 minutes. I don't know. I was so out of it. My anxiety was through the roof. So they were pushing things for anxiety, pushing things for, you're nauseous during your C-section. I couldn't breathe. And I remember begging Shane and the anesthesiologist, please don't let me fall asleep. Please don't let me fall asleep. Because I fell asleep during my son's birth, my first one. And I never got to experience birth. And I'm like drifting off. And Shane's like, wake up. And he couldn't turn off his paramedic brain. So they're calling all these meds that they're pushing. He's looking at the blood and he's like, that's not normal. He's like, that's a trauma response med, and I'm listening to him say all of this stuff and I'm freaking out. And he's freaking out, right? This is his first time having children. And I just remember hearing all of that. And I just remember begging them, just please let me be awake. And then they say, twin A's out. She's not breathing. Sorry. And they have, the little beds. And you see a team of like 4 or 5 nurses. You have your nurse practitioner just working on her, tubes everywhere. I never got to meet her right away. They took her straight back. And I just told Shane, go with her. Please, don't let my daughter be by herself. He did not leave me. He said, I can't leave you. You need me. They need doctors. Okay, 2 minutes later, Walker's out. And I guess he was maybe in a little bit better condition because they brought him to my face. But he was purple. And he wasn't making sound. But it was like, you're like this. 2 seconds. He's right here. And I'm like, take a picture of him. Like, take a picture of him. His big old luscious lips.
Got it from his mama.
Yes. And his little curls. And he's gone too. And I look at Shane and I'm like, please, please go be with them. Please. I don't want you here. I need you to be with them because I felt so guilty. I kept telling myself that I had one job. Again, that's like a reoccurring theme in my story, that I just have one job. And my job was 4 weeks. That was my job. My job was 4 weeks. So it wouldn't be scary like it was. I just feel like I failed. I feel like I failed myself, my kids, my husband, again. You don't know. I keep saying that, like waiting for validation, but so yeah, that was one of the hardest days of my life, but it was also the best day. So
this weekend, you celebrated the twins' second birthday. What a miracle.
Yeah. And it's still hard,
You share a lot on social media on your channels about being in NICU. I think that there's a community for infertility. I think we've kind of found our people here in the DFW area, but like our audience as they grow will come from all over with infertility. But I also think that there's such an incredible platform for you to share about the NICU and the time in the NICU and all of this trauma that has resounded from that place of control and fear and guilt, and then carrying that through their entire stay as if you were responsible. And yeah, NICU is just a completely different beast, but then it's emergency C-section with twins, 30 weeks pregnant, and just so much anxiety, so many unknowns, so much prayer and confusion, but always coming back to what you've done to cause this. And I think I think we do that a lot as women. I think we wonder, if I hadn't done fill in the blank, maybe if we waited to have sex before we got married, infertility wouldn't be a thing. Maybe if we would have done one transfer versus two, maybe if I didn't or I did, like, but I think, and this is for all of us to remember, like, but the sovereignty of God, like, we can't say that God is only good when what we think is good is good. We're saying that, like, you're only a good God if you give me the things that I want. And when things don't go right, I'm going to be responsible. But his sovereignty is outside of all of it, like out of our own understanding, like our limited knowledge of what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. And so we basically have to remove his holiness and his sovereignty in order to feel guilty. Mm-hmm. And to take on that responsibility. Like, God, I know you could have done something different, but you didn't. So now this is my fault. That's a hard place to be.
And it's also, what am I saying about God when I feel that way? Mm-hmm. You know, who am I to go against all the promises that he already made me? Because he does make promises. Like, how many women in the Bible walk through infertility and God makes a promise and that comes to life? And then after that, I call them infertility babies in the Bible, the amazing things that they do. Mm-hmm. And time and time and time again, I've doubted him. And time again, he said, Genesis, I've got you. Mm-hmm. You have to let go. You have to learn to trust me. And I just feel like, you know, did it really need to be this hard of a lesson? Apparently it did. But, you know, we did celebrate my kid's second birthday. That was a promise from the Lord. Mm. I didn't do that. The doctors didn't do that. God did that, because like Jeremiah 1:5 tells us, like, I knew you when I formed you in the womb. God knew my children. Mm-hmm. It wasn't IVF that created my children. Does God give doctors knowledge? Absolutely. But this is where my strong faith comes in and my beliefs, where it's like, God knows every single child that is created. And when my husband's and mine's DNA came together to create life, I do strongly believe that, like, God already had it all planned. He already knew Grace and Walker were going to be in the world. Obviously, I haven't worked through it all the way, mm-hmm. right? Because it still really gets to me, but it's not.
You're not going to work through it today either, and we're just, and that's the best part about it, is that there's other people that are holding that same guilt.
Yeah,
and you just stay real and raw, and we can still give them promises, but it can fall on deaf ears for as long as it needs to, because he's working through this with a lot of people. You're not the only one going through that right now. There's a lot of people thinking that they can control things that they actually can't.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there that are trying to navigate things that are not necessarily for them to control. It almost, if I could be as like gentle and honest with you as possible, right? You will do the same for me, I hope. But we can't only think that God did things that are good. You said it was God's promise that they were here for their second birthday, but it wasn't God's promise that they were delivered through NICU. It wasn't God's promise that you had a C-section. It wasn't God's promise for all these other things. Like, that was your fault, but God gave you a birthday party.
Yeah.
Like, he's a completely separate entity. He's only in the good. He's only a part of the things that we see him being a part of. That we were like, oh yes, God let me have a second birthday party to infinity and beyond with my 2-year-olds. And we got to celebrate them. Thank you, Jesus. But I'm so sorry, Grace and Walker. I'm so sorry, husband. I'm so sorry, mom. I'm so sorry, sister. Like, I caused all of this because I made this choice, a choice that he allowed you to make. The Lord allowed it. Like, you chose it. You had like this whole plan. You think he didn't know that? He formed you in your mother's womb just the way he did for them. And so I think he knew you were going to make that choice. That wasn't a surprise. He knew the whole process and how they were going to arrive, and he allowed it. But you're like, no, God didn't allow that. I did that, and I'm responsible. But he did give me a second birthday party, and he's super cool for that, right? There's like this complete disconnect from him being a good God in bad times. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
You see how we just like, this is too bad for God. Like he can't have anything to do. His son was brutally murdered on a cross. He's there. He's there in the NICU. He's there in that OR. He's there every time that you went to the hospital, begging him to keep them in. And he knew when they would be here. So that's not your responsibility.
I'm just scared. If I don't take the responsibility, I'm going to want to shift the blame onto him. And then if I do, why would he allow me to go through that? If he knew how it breaks me. You know? And it's like, I'm weirdly protecting God. Why does God need my protection?
I love that. I think that resonates with a lot of people. There's so much wisdom in what you just said, is that you would rather be responsible for what happened to your children and what's happened to you and in your marriage than allow a good God to be responsible, to blame him for what you endured. So you're going to bear that cross. There's a lot of people that feel that way. But to get to that point is wisdom, to know that that's what you're doing. And it's so sweet. Like, God, I don't want you to feel bad about this. Like, I did this, okay? Like, you're so awesome. Like, it's so beautiful.
I just love him so much. I don't want to be mad at him.
Yeah.
But I kind of am.
Yeah. So you'll be mad at yourself instead.
Yeah.
So I think that's really incredible that you would be able to identify that heaviness that you carry in order to protect God. I've also had similar feelings towards protecting God. And, you know, when I was struggling with infertility and wanting to almost defend him in a way that if I wasn't getting pregnant, it's like, well, where's your God now? You know? And I never wanted anyone to say like, well, you've prayed and God didn't answer that. So I was very defensive of him and wanting to protect him. And I've kind of released myself of that responsibility. Like, as much as I want that, I know that I can't be that. And I'm not made to be that. I'm not made to protect him. But I do understand that like deep, sincere sentiment. So I would love to kind of end our session for today, but I want you to come back and we're going to spend some time talking through your NICU journey and just what that's been and how you advocate for those moms and even your breastfeeding journey and just how you supported so many women through all that you went through for those babies and just that process and your health now. I mean, you're going through a lot and there's more to come. So we will have Genesis back. But before we end today, do you have any verses or encouragement or something for the girls that are really just holding on to that heaviness of what you shared today?
Yeah, I think community is vital.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've mentioned this so many times that I wish I was in the space I am today back then to make different decisions because there's so much about infertility and IVF that the doctors don't talk to you about.
Yeah.
That you're so desperate for a baby that you don't think about remaining embryos. You don't think about loss. You don't, you have one goal in mind and that's to get pregnant. So I would just surround myself with God-fearing, Jesus-loving women and community and with the word. And there's so many devotionals about infertility and so many beautiful stories. Hannah wept so hard for a baby. People thought she was drunk, and I just think it's so important to remember the word of God in these moments. And Philippians 4 really got me through a lot. In 2022, I was just sharing you, I said, I will ask God for my baby girl. I got pregnant 2023, lost our daughter. And in 2024, God redeemed that. And now I have grace, So I love this verse that I can come to God with an anxious heart, but I can be honest and thankful for him and that he will, answer my prayers, because that's what he said. Maybe it won't happen when I think it's going to happen or the way I think it's going to happen, but God is good. And in one shape or form, he will answer me. And I just have to have faith and trust in him.
It's amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. And we will have you back for the NICU, breastfeeding, marriage, all of that. So
Thank you.